You guys know how I feel about N'Zoth. He was done wrong. His BFA triumphant moment shouldn't have been his last, and I still don't think it was. In Dragonflight, we came back to him, we saw him, he said, I know who you are, I know what you'll do, what you'll become. So he saw his own death. Would the greatest of all planners truly allow his own death to happen, even when he knows it's coming? I don't think so. N'Zoth may be returning, as may the old gods, as may Ny'Alotha. That's right, Ny'Alotha returning in 11.2, the sunken city under Khaz-Elgar. Let's see what this is all about. Doran only tells the truth. He is the truth teller, after all. Let's see what he's discovered about what 11.2 might be.
Do you remember Ny'Alotha, the sunken city that was not actually sunken at all, and we only visited it in an alternate reality where we defeated Nzoths? The city that Xal'atath herself was in awe of and told us how amazing and glorious it is.
Look at this. How did we only get this in an instance? That's a travesty, man. I wanted to go to Ny'Alotha in all of its glory. I wanted it to be like a full city patch like Argus was. You know, we go to Ny'Alotha for an entire patch. We're living in the city. That would have been amazing. We got it in a freaking instance version. That sucks. We need to go back to Ny'Alotha correctly. Do it right this time, Blizzard. They are refusing everything. They are reusing everything in lore, so it doesn't matter. Horrific Visions rings. Yeah, exactly. Horrific Visions are coming back. So maybe Doran's not too far off with this.
Other name is the Sleeping City, and by all the recent hints, the true location might be below Hellfall. Recently, it was confirmed that the Titans built a prison that we can reach through the coreway right in Khaz-Elgar, which implies this is the place to access the world's soul. Old gods must have known about this as well, and they would build their own versions of this. It will be known as the Sleeping City because this is where Azeroth is actually sleeping.
It's funny, they call it the Sleeping City, and yet N'Zoth, one of his final lines was, all eyes shall be open. You guys remember that at the end of the Azara kill? Pretty bad. There's a lot of sleep, wake, eyes opening, eyes closing, metaphors, all kinds of stuff going on with old god lore.
Titans came in, sunk it, planted a tree, ripped it out, and then built their own prison over it. In 11.1.5, we are getting the Horrific Visions again, surprisingly.
Good city for player housing.
This place, aka the hidden Rootlands zone, we will get the midnight announcement based on the roadmap because this will reveal the entire Void plan. So, I know it sounds crazy, but what is all this new information? Nzoths may be returning soon, and I just managed to actually talk to him in the Polyboss app.
Oh, there it is.
What he can tell us about Khaz-Elgar and Ny'Alotha, and he's purposefully being mystic.
CCM Volts, thank you for the 2 months in a row, man. Thank you for the resub. You guys want to talk to your tentacle god? Here you go.
I found it
super
fun that I managed to create whatever character I wanted. I managed to set up a backstory, and you can have them as your companion. Coolest thing is, recently, we also got a multi-character group chat feature. So, use my link in the description and my code movies in the redemption page to unlock premium features right away. Polyboss is also available on Chrome, so check it out, it is super fun. So a few videos back, I've talked about the very possible return of Nzoths based on the roadmap that was revealed on Warcraft Direct, but now I wanna dig into the evidence because it's actually super interesting when you dig into the details. So the main reason you must have seen people talking about Nzoths again is due to the patch 11.1.5 that will give us Nightfall, and we will revisit the Horrific Visions. Now, I know people keep on saying...
Now, it's not Horrific Visions anew, Horrific Visions return, it's Horrific Visions revisited. And I think that's important because I think we are going back to the Horrific Visions to see maybe what Xal'atath is planning, what her end game might be, because don't forget, Horrific Visions essentially were the end game of the old gods. They were this vision of what would happen if they succeeded and everything they wanted to happen happened. You remember Illyria had lost her damn mind. She kidnapped her son, killed Turellian. That was happening in Orgrimmar. You had a bunch of other shit going on. So all of this stuff was like a version of the truth, essentially. It was like a true version of what this world would look like had the old gods won. So getting revisited is, I think, a key point here, in that we are intentionally going back to revisit these and maybe explore what could be happening, figure out a way to kill Xal'atath or something.
Now, I know people keep on saying this might not involve Nzoths, but keep in mind, the original visions were called Horrific Visions of Nzoths, and they didn't say Horrific Visions like we are going to them. They said we are revisiting them, meaning repeating the same content. Now, this is actually supported by a few things, and that is that Blizzard has, for some reason, pushed Nzoths specifically to us in the past few years. We've supposedly killed him in BFA, but Blizzard had a time travel scenario in Dragonflight where he appeared.
Yeah, this scenario was the moment where I realized it's not just a rumor, it's not just hopeful thinking. N'Zoth could be coming back. Because we went back in time, N'Zoth was able to look into our minds, and our minds didn't change when we went back in time. Everything that we know is in there, so he witnessed his own demise. There's no way the greatest of all planners would let it happen a second time, which is basically what would have to happen for it to remain in the true timeline. So, this moment right here told me that N'Zoth could be coming back.
And he saw us, and it was this really weird breaking the fourth wall moment. He saw us from the past, recognized us, which made a lot of us speculate that he might get the information through time travel and change some things. Here's the thing. Old gods are not minions, regular mobs that you kill and you just get rid of for good. They're probably the most annoying creatures in existence that we had ever seen, and if it was so easy to just kill them, then the Titans would have done it when they first arrived in Azeroth. However, not only could they not kill them, but they could barely even imprison them, and as you can see, pretty much all of those prisons eventually failed and just started leaking. Why would you imagine that we would just get rid of them for good, and that is the end of the story? Now, the second reason we're talking about N'Zoth is that they made him relevant in the original promotion cinematic for this expansion, The War Within. We've had the entire Xal'atath ordeal where she communicates with the Nerubians. They show us a scene of N'Zoth trying to recruit them back in BFA, and they also show his body as in he was defeated. Third reason N'Zoth may be relevant is because the return of Azshara, his minion, is imminent, and that entire N'Zoth Azshara ending was entirely open-ended. However, as I said, things are a lot more complicated than we think, and let me tell you why. So, us defeating N'Zoth has always been weird. We've been to his supposed prison, we know it was under the ocean, but the actual location was never confirmed, and we were teleported there. Furthermore, we defeated N'Zoth in Ny'Alotha, which in itself was an alternate reality where the black...
Right, an alternate reality. This whole thing with the dagger, too, right? He wanted Xal'atath's dagger. Remember when Xal'atath brings us to him, and he does his whole Eye of N'Zoth on our forehead, and all that shit happens? The dagger itself, N'Zoth requested that it remain with him. Interestingly enough, we use it to kill him, supposedly, or at least weaken him. I think his essence still remains in the dagger, personally, and that's where he's being kept alive.
The Empire was restored, and it reconquered Azeroth. After being freed, N'Zoth began to tear down the veil that separated Ny'Alotha from the physical world, and he was trying to merge the two realities, which would spell doom for all of us, and we ended up stopping that. However, here is something that is really interesting. Do you remember the name Ny'Alotha, the sunken city, and the prison of N'Zoth was under the ocean in an unspecified location? This never really made much sense, but now with the new information, it is just so intriguing that I just had to make a video about this. There is a void ocean supposedly below Hellfall that we just can't really figure out completely yet. It's
a void
super weird,
ocean,
and it is definitely going to be 11.2 content, and we have actual Xal'atath whispers that just makes this even more interesting. Let me really quickly explain what is going on. So, the top speculation right now is that there is a zone between Ashkahet and Hellfall called Rootlands, and it is heavily supported. We are getting this information from an internal map. The Rootlands is just an internal name. It won't probably be the actual name of the zone. However, I really don't think this is even a speculation anymore. We're talking about the roots of Luna here, the first ever world tree on Azeroth that was ripped out by Amon'Tul. They're guarded by the Halanir, and Blizzard actually gave us a hint in the cinematic. If you missed it on Warcraft Direct, as you can see from this screenshot, they call...
Yeah, this, I think she's the relevant... Remember, we were just reading the patch notes?
Another death
Uvo, thank you for the 2 months in a row Prime sub, and thank you so much, man. I appreciate that, Death Knight of our Scourge. She's the one, I think, that familiar face in the patch notes. The patch notes say we're going to dig deeper and see a familiar face. I think she's the one that we're going to see.
Azeroth, the goddess, and Azeroth called them to this place. However, how does this play into the upcoming zone? So, the legend itself said that when Amon'Tul ripped out the roots remained, Guardians came in, Elnar webbed tears, which formed a pool. The tree itself was planted right around the...
Oh my god. You're right. Uvo, you're right. That's an old god line. Beware the eyes of green. Wait, are her eyes green? I never paid attention to this. Hold on. Where is it? It's right here, right? Shit. Oh my god. I completely forgot that line. I remember everybody thought that that line had to do with Illidan or something. Oh shit. Look at that. You may be onto something.
pool. The tree itself was planted right around the cleansing of Azeroth, so during this timeline, during the Black Empire Titan War, as a means to remove the old god corruption. What I think is really interesting as well is that this was a project between Eonar and Elune, and Azeroth might even be Elune based on this, as she wanted to protect the roots for some reason, even though they were supposedly imposed on her. However, keep in mind, this was planted upon old god corruption. Do you remember Northrend, and when a world tree was planted upon Yogg-Saron's Serenite corruption, which was his blood? This is how the Emerald Nightmare was created, just through this alone. However, in this case, we're dealing with something much worse. So, I've been blabbing about this for a while, but here is the hard evidence and the dialogue. In Hellfall, we got a fish that is obviously a representation of the old gods, and almost certainly something to do with N'Zoth, because we had seen N'Zoth using this basic fish form multiple times. There was also a behemoth, which is an old god being as well. This assumingly simple fish gave us some sinister whispers. It told us, don't you dare bring the light of Beledar into the depths below. The behemoth says, depths unknown so dark that not even the Naga dare venture into. The fish told us this as it swam into the lake in Hellfall and just seemingly
disappears. Yeah, it disappeared. This whole thing with the fish, clearly they're dropping some kind of hint of old god-esque things happening, right? Now, whether that's 11.2 Ny'Alotha stuff, this whole void pond I mean, Doran's, yeah, he does speculate, but this isn't off. This isn't that far off. Like, he's literally using things that came from the game, and they all seem pretty legit. And the fact that they are hinting at some type of old god influence here.
Disappeared. All of this is pointing to the fact that this Rootlands zone must be full old god corruption, and they may be literally swimming in old god blood. Like, this ocean could be old god blood, and this is what Xal'atath may be after. Let me give you some interesting whispers from the past. You may remember the old surface blazes bright, masking shadows below, which would in this case refer to Beledar, which would technically be just one zone above this. Then we had Yogg-Saron's puzzle blocks that said at the bottom of the ocean, even light must die. Furthermore, we have Nzoth's literal whispers where he told us, we will follow Magni into deep places and dark waters will flow in his wake. However, I want to mention something literally no one is talking about, and how I think this may be Ny'Alotha,
he's got something else?
Sunken City. I know it must sound crazy, but just hear me out for 1 minute. We got teaser screenshots from Undermine, which is going to be the bridge into this 11.2 zone, and we had discovered a massive and what appears to be an important item facility underground that is seemingly consumed by old god blood. All of this is happening close to Khazakar. Now, long story short, if you haven't kept up with the lore, but we literally learned that the coreway thing in Khazakar is actually a massive elevator that leads to the world core, which is a giant prison over Azeroth that Azeroth herself tried to break. If some crazy old god corruption is happening here, there must be a reason Titans tried to contain it right in this place. Keep in mind, this is the core to the Chamber of Azeroth, and the old gods definitely knew this as well. It is something special.
The King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. Don't forget who got us into that core way, who led us down there, the whole Heart of Azeroth thing. It was all part of Magni's thing, right? Like, he's been talking to Azeroth. He's doing... The King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. Come on. Is it that far-fetched to think that maybe they wanted us to get into that core way to unlock that stuff so they could actually get into it maybe themselves later on? They did, in fact, invade it at one point. You guys remember you're questing, and an old god portal opens up there before the horrific visions, like the whole quest line to unlock horrific visions. They come in. The old gods come in, portal opens, all that shit happens and everything. So, not only that, we used to enter horrific visions through the Heart of Azeroth chamber. Interesting. We are basically bringing the void into the chamber. All crazy stuff.
With Khazakar. Now, this leads us to Ny'Alotha. So, as I said, Ny'Alotha has always been super big. It was said to be the city that N'Zoth supposedly ruled over, and the version we saw was similar to the Emerald Dream, just an alternate plane intrinsically connected to Azeroth. But what if now this is the real thing,
the real
in the material
deal
plane? Now, hear me out. I know this doesn't match the Chronicle map because this would technically be Yashiraj's territory, but what if this was the main old god city, the old god version of the Coreway? This place here is the place if you want to corrupt the world soul. You would imagine the old gods, the leaders of the Black Empire that almost corrupted Azeroth, knew about this, and they placed their holy Ny'Alotha city in this place. Titans came in, destroyed the city, sunk it under the ocean, aka the sunken city. Eonar tried planting a world tree over it, Amantul hated the idea, ripped it out, and just did a Titan prison over it, just full Titan rule. However, one thing we know about the old gods is you can never get rid of them. What is also interesting about this is that the architecture of Ny'Alotha is similar to Ankh-Kiraj, which is actually close by. However, before you think I'm just going crazy here, I want to dig out some quotes from none other than Xal'atath, that is behind this entire master plan, behind this entire thing that will ultimately lead us into Rootlands. Remember, we have legit quotes from Xal'atath talking about Ny'Alotha. She told us when we visited Suramar that this is nothing in comparison to the sleeping city. Referring to Ny'Alotha, she then told us that the towers of sacrifice in Ny'Alotha dwarfs these pathetic temples. Remember the Nerubians sacrificing themselves in this mural as well? She knew about this place, and I'm almost certain this isn't Nzoths city, but the old god city,
Yeah, look at the size of these pillars in this image. Like the way Xal'atath talks about it, and from what we've seen, is we really saw like some kind of dumbed down midget version of what the true Ny'Alotha would have looked like a much smaller version, because these towers look like they just scrape the sky. They're massive. Like imagine seeing these giant, you know, pillar-style triangular buildings and all that stuff. Like this thing would have looked really cool to go actually see it. That's why I want him to do it, because I feel like it realized in its full glory, like massive floating pillars, all this stuff would just look really, really cool in game.
Old god version of the Titan prison world core. This must be the main place of their corruption, where they actually wanted to awaken Azeroth. Xal'atath, by all accounts from what we had previously seen, hated N'Zoth and the old gods, thought he was a joke. She wouldn't be in awe of N'Zoth's own city. This must have been the core of the Void Lord project, the Void Lords that she is actually serving. The Sleeping City, because this is where the World Soul was sleeping and they wanted to awaken it. The Sunken City, because the Titans destroyed it and sunk it into this.
You see it in these images. Look at the size of these pillars. We never saw anything like this, and this one literally stretches across the entire screen. You can't even see where it ends. This would be so cool to actually see in game.
The Sunken City, because the Titans destroyed it and sunk it into this fissure that is Khazad. Did you ever wonder why they called Ny'Alotha the Sunken City, despite the fact that it was definitely not underwater when we visited it? One more thing I couldn't find an answer for the longest time. We've seen this in the artwork and the cinematics, but the Nerubians are gathering old god pods, old god brains, what appears to be old god minions. They're placing them in labs.
I enhanced this image before. We saw it's a very much a big tentacle with what looked like little eyes on it and stuff. So we were trying to figure out which old god this belonged to. I think it's N'Zoth, if we had to really guess, but I'm not exactly sure.
Are gathering old god pods, old god brains, what appears to be old god minions. They're
giant
placing them in labs, vials, and various devices. We've seen old god type eyes and a giant brain with a sword that goes right through it. No one has an answer for where are they getting these pods from and how are they even harvesting the old god blood. Well, check this out. If this fallen city, the old god blood ocean, is right under Hellfall and above Ashkahet, that would literally be ideal for them. Like literally, they may be getting this from Nzoth's prison if it is here, as well as the fallen, sleeping, sunken old god city Ny'Alotha that we would actually visit in real time and not an alternate reality like in BFA. I know it sounds super weird, but it definitely answers a whole bunch of questions we previously had and a lot of other speculations. I think this is the true reason Xal'atath came here. The sleeping city, the old god city that was supposed to awaken Azeroth, would be the key to actually awaken it and bring midnight. Now, why we would later go to the Sunwell is still a mystery for me, but I think this is what 11.2 is going to be about. And remember, once this patch is out, midnight announcement will happen next summer, so we will know what is going on. 11.2 is supposedly the patch that reveals everything. Thanks for watching. Check out my video on how Xal'atath has actually repaired the Dark Heart, and check out my video on Parents Like Mythology by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Yeah, great video, and I totally think this is actually a possibility. I do. I don't think Doran was reaching too far on this. I totally see that we are gonna go back into some old god lore. Now, do we get Ny'Alotha fully revealed as like a massive zone, city the size of a zone, as you mentioned, Konesia? Massive pillars stretching to the sky, like oversized everything. You got to remember, this is like a city built for old gods. Compared to the old gods, we are minuscule, right? Tiny little things. So this city should be massive. Huge ramps, huge stairs, huge buildings, big freaking skyscrapers. Like, that's what I want to see. Ominous overlooking clouds, you know, a weird skybox. Like, that would be amazing. And crazy music, obviously, would go along with all of this. Do we get this in-game? Will this be 11.2? I hope we get something like this very soon. Most definitely. Nice video from Doran.